What is up, everyone? Today I'm going to talk about how the government actually failed the free market and the Spirit Airlines bankruptcy. So I'm going to quickly tell you guys about some of my experiences flying Spirit. We guys, all of us know it's the cheapest airline by far. You know, it's one of those things you get nickel and dime for everything. If you want to, use the overhead thing, you pay. If you want to check a bag, you pay. You want any little thing, you end up paying. And, that's for better and worse, because if you just want to fly from place to place with just a backpack, it's really cheap. It's a really good option. But generally speaking, they were making a lot of their money on those tertiary fees. Now, I did have to fly it a handful of times. So, it's one of those things where I would only do it when I didn't have a lot of money at the time. Things weren't run the best, too. So it was one of those things where I actually have been stranded before because of Spirit Airlines. There was a flight I had to take a connection from Miami to Phoenix and Dallas, and all of a sudden my flight gets canceled from the connection from Dallas to Phoenix, and they lose our bag, and the service was awful. The line was out the door, and I just remember us staying in a hotel for 4 hours waiting for our next flight. But the point is, our bag was lost. They handled it very poorly, and it was just one of those things where I'm like, yeah, if this just happened to me on a random flight on a random day, like how often is this stuff happening? And I am of the belief that if you're a bad company and you operate poorly, you need to fail. We shouldn't have companies succeed by any stretch of the imagination. We shouldn't have companies succeed that are poorly run. Now, Elizabeth Warren, we all know who she is. She's a very corrupt socialist. She stopped the deal from going through a few years ago for JetBlue to acquire them. Now, this is what I'm against, guys, because I do think bad companies should fail. They weren't a great company, but they provide a service to the market that was needed, which is cheap, low-cost fares. And so JetBlue offered to acquire them for about almost $4 billion, 3.8. Every single person voted yes. So the flight attendants, the pilots, the crew, the stakeholders, and many of the shareholders, all of them voted yes. But the Biden DOJ, they sued due to Pocahontas's or Warren's influence. And this is really bad, because if that deal went through, these 14,000 employees would have been acquired, and essentially they would just be operating under JetBlue. JetBlue would have been bigger, more competitive. JetBlue probably would have also been able to compete better with the likes of Delta, Southwest, United, American, Alaskan. They would have been able to compete better. But because that deal didn't go through, it made JetBlue weaker, and it made Spirit weak to the point where they were at the end of their rope, right? People saw the writing on the wall years ago that this needed to happen, and they didn't let it go through. What's the negative impact of this? Well, 14,000 jobs are gone, right? That's really not good. But all the pilots and flight attendants and the people in baggage, the reservation people. I actually know someone that works at Spirit in the supply chain department, and he's out of work. He's going to be out of work shortly. But the vendors, that's the big thing, guys. Think about all the second and third order support vendors that support Spirit. So think, the food, if they serve food on board, those people are going to be out of work. The people that supply them gas, they're going to also face decreased volume. The people that are supplying them with parts, uniforms, whatever, you name it, the corporate offices, all that stuff, there's going to be people out of work now because of that. The contractors. So a lot can be blamed on the increased prices of fuel. And I think, I will say that probably did contribute to a lot of this. And it was just showing how weak of a position they were in. I mean, the fuel has only been high for maybe 2.5, 3 months now. So they weren't in a strong fiscal position at the start of this. This was kind of the nail in the coffin. But would things have been different? Yes. People would be employed right now. Maybe there would have been less. Maybe there were only, instead out of the 14, maybe only 10 would have made the cut. But there would have been a lion's share of these people employed. Now, I'm not for government bailouts. So there was a lot of talks about getting a bailout in place to keep Spirit going. And that would have been a horrible idea as well. So think about it. The government, central planners, they block a deal from that was voted on by the free market from being acquired. They blocked it. And now the government was thinking about bailing them out. I mean, how? Just let the free market work as the free market works. Things will happen. In the free market, it would have actually taken away from this oligopoly of United Southwest American Delta. It would have reduced their oligopoly. So I'm really against this intervention. And I think we all need to speak up against it, because what else are they intervening on? I mean, look at Intel. Intel, the government has a 10% stake. They're up more than double on the position. Are you guys, the taxpayers, richer because of that? I don't think so. So, it's just something to think about. JetBlue, they had a lot of cash. Like, this was something that they could have done. They could have expanded their fleet and compete against this Big Four. Now we're going to have further consolidation with the Big Four. The Big Four already makes up 75% of all the U.S. domestic travel. I expect that to increase now to 80, 85% or more. So where are these Spirit customers going to go now? They're offering these relief programs to flyers to say, hey, like, these are, going to be competitively priced fares. I just priced one out from Phoenix to Minneapolis, $400 round trip. That's not a competitive price. When I was flying on Frontier or Allegiant or, Spirit, from what I remember Spirit's prices being, it would have been like $100 to $150 to go to Minneapolis from Phoenix, round trip. And now Americans coming in, look at, here's our rescue fare, $400. Come on, that's ridiculous. So less routes, less competition. These incumbents are so excited. They're seething. They're just ready to further consolidate and have their enrichment go up. It's going to cost us, the end users, more. It's going to cost the people who lost their jobs more. And it's going to cost all of us more in the long run. In the short run, it'll be good for some of the employees at these incumbents. So we need more options. We need more routes. We need less government intervention. Because any further intervention is just going to further exacerbate all this bad stuff that has happened. I hope that every single person that has lost their job at Spirit finds something with these new carriers. I also think it's important that when we're running companies, we do it really well, because there were decisions that were made over the past decade at Spirit, because they're an old company. I mean, their safety record is impeccable. It's amazing, but they're an older company, and there's maybe things that they could have done now that they're looking back that could have helped them more and given them a bigger cash cushion. Just like we personally in life, we need to have 6 to 12 months of cash at all times. These companies do too. And we also need to prepare for unforeseen events. What if gas prices double? What if gas prices increase 30%, 40%? What are we going to do? How are our margins going to be? Will we be able to operate competitively? We need to forecast all scenarios, because if we don't, we're putting all our eggs in one basket. Main lesson here is government intervention is bad. It's important we speak up against this. And in the end, I think bad companies should fail. Bad companies shouldn't be bailed out, but we also shouldn't intervene. So I wonder what would have happened with that acquisition, and I think it would have been better. But guys, let me know your thoughts. What do you think about this Spirit Airlines bankruptcy and how the government failed the free market? I'm so interested in hearing your thoughts, and I hope you have a good rest of your day.